Range script loaded, you can now press Escape and select either Choose Slot or Choose Coalition Red, and then pick your aircraft. Early MiG-21 interceptors mounted the same NR-30 autocannon as the MiG-19, but the MiG-21 bis version mounts the much more modern GSH-23 with 250 rounds of ammunition, and has a rate of fire of around 3,000 rounds per minute. The Gryazev-Shipyonov GSH-23 was developed by the Soviet Union and entered service in 1965. It is a twin-barreled weapon in which the firing action of one barrel operates the mechanism of the other. Although it cannot match the sustained rate of fire of an electric rotary cannon like the M61 Vulcan, it requires no external power source to operate but is instead powered by the recoiling of the floating barrels. The 23mm ammunition is effective against infantry, soft-skinned vehicles and light armored vehicles. Its maximum range is 2 kilometers, but its optimum fire range is 600 meters. Press space bar to continue. For this training mission, we will use a weapons range near Wadi Abu Rish Air Base, which employs assets created by the 476th Virtual Fighter Group, plus a weapons range script developed by the user Sirabob, which will allow you to gauge your strafing accuracy. To succeed, you will have to strafe 3 gun targets available on the southern side of the range. Perform at least 3 passes over the strafing pits, 1 for each target. You can access the attack statistics calling up the F10 option of the communications menu. You can make as many passes as you want, while you still have ammunition left. Perform the passes on an east to west general direction, so that the mission logic can keep track of them. Press space bar to begin the training. We will first contact ATC, to request taxi clearance. Select Radio Channel 1, set audio switch to radio, and then press the push-to-talk button on the throttle. The DCS communications menu should appear. Select F1, request taxi to runway. After a few seconds, ATC should answer and clear us to a takeoff runway. Take note of the runway number. If there is other traffic on the taxiways, ATC might delay the answer until the taxiways are clear. Press spacebar once the controller gives you clearance. ATC cleared for us runway 19 Lima, which is very near, to our right. Feel free to perform, or not, the before taxi checklist. Press spacebar once you are ready to taxi. We are now ready to taxi. Increase throttle slightly, test wheel brakes, and once the aircraft advances, turn right to taxi towards runway 19 Lima. This is taxiway Echo. Proceed forward and stop just short of the designated runway. We will now contact ATC again, to request takeoff clearance. Press the push-to-talk button on the throttle. The DCS communications menu should appear. Select F1, request takeoff.
Enfield 1.
After a few seconds, ATC should answer and give us clearance. Press spacebar once ATC has granted permission to enter the runway. Okay, now that you have clearance, look left and right to ensure there is no other traffic, release the brakes, and enter the runway. Turn left, and align with the center line of the runway. Once aligned, press the wheel brakes and stop the aircraft to a complete halt. Good, you should now proceed with the rest of the before takeoff procedure, which you already learned on the takeoff training mission. Press spacebar once you are ready to take off. Fully apply and hold the wheel brakes. Advance the throttle lever to full throttle. Confirm the nozzle open light is illuminated. Check EGT, engine oil pressure, and the oil light should be off. Release the wheel brakes. Steer the aircraft with just rudder inputs. At 250 km per hour, pull back the stick and rotate. Airborne, increase attitude to 10 degrees. Retract the landing gear. On 3 red lights, set the gear lever to its neutral center position. And latch the gear lever. Check nose cone has extended, and the warning, inlet cone out, is lit. Turn taxi lights off, down, with a right click. Retract flaps and retrim. Flaps retracted, maintain 600 km per hour until you reach the mission ceiling. Heading to the range is 205 to 210 degrees. Check the ARU gauge, its pointer should deflect to the right. The stabilizer on, light should be off. The main element that the MiG-21 pilot uses to deliver its weapons is the ASPP-FD optical sight. As a first step, make sure it has electric power, its sight power switch should be up. The sight offers 2 different aiming aids, a pipper, which is mostly used for cannon use against non-maneuvering targets, and a fixed net, which is used for bombing and rocket attacks. You can have both active at the same time, turn them on with the highlighted switches. Adjust their relative brightness as needed, using the highlighted knobs. For this mission, leave the pipper bright and the net dim. Press spacebar once the sight brightness has been adjusted. The sight can be used in two main modes, air-to-air, or air-to-ground. For this mission, select air-to-ground mode, by setting the sight master mode switch to its G and D down position. The sight operation modes are selected using its left side controls. For gun employment, select gun rocket modes. For aiming the gun, select GN, up. Shooting or bombing modes. For gun employment, select S. Automatic or manual mode. On manual, the pilot must manually set the angular depression knob of the sight, using the marks 0, gun, S5M and S24 for rockets, etc. While on automatic, the sight sets the depression based on which weapon is currently selected. For this mission, select Auto. MSL or Euro mode. MSL renders the pipper cage to the center line of the sight, while Euro has the pipper moving as the ASP attempts to predict the target position, and is used only for air-to-air weapons against non-maneuvering targets. For air-to-ground use of the gun, select MSL. The MiG-21 radar can be used as a ranging sensor, to help the sight to provide an accurate shooting cue, measuring the distance from the aircraft to the target. The radar requires a 3 to 5 minutes warm-up period, and it has cooling restrictions that limit its use to 35 to 40 minutes while in standby mode, and only 20 to 25 minutes when fully active, so keep it off for as long as possible. As we are near our weapon's range sight, set it to standby now, middle position, and to on, up, once we begin our practice attack. Enable the ranging mode by selecting locked beam on the highlighted switch. When used for ranging, no other radar option needs to be set. To be able to use the internal gun, turn on its power switch. Although the gun itself is now electrically powered, you still won't be able to fire it, because you also need to load the first ammunition round into each gun chamber. This is accomplished by activating one of the 3 cannon pyrotechnic cartridges, pressing one of the gun load-reload buttons. Do it now, press the highlighted reload button. When you press the button, a distinctive sound of metal pounding was heard, along with the explosion sound of one pyro cartridge. Once the gun is loaded and ready, the gun-armed green light illuminates. If the gun ever jams while firing, the green light will go off. You can attempt to unjam the gun by pressing one of the remaining reload buttons. Also, note that a safety interlock prevents gun firing when the landing gear is extended. The green light will also go off once all the ammunition is depleted. The internal gun bay has a 250 rounds capacity, and as the rate of fire is around 3,000 rounds per minute, you have just around 12 seconds of ammo available. Fire short bursts to maximize this time. There is no ammunition counter on the cockpit. Press spacebar to continue. To fire either the internal gun or the external gun pods, you press the gun trigger on the flight stick. To prevent accidental fire, the trigger has a safety mechanism with 2 positions. Up, the trigger is safe and the gun will not fire if it is pressed. The red safety catch is visible. Down, the trigger is armed and ready to fire, the red catch is not visible. Pulled, on the real aircraft, the trigger can be pulled when the safety catch is on its lower position. On DCS, your HOTA's trigger button is usually binded to fire the gun, while the trigger safety lock is handled with a keyboard binding, by default the right shift plus dot keys. The DCS developer has implemented a small cheat, where the safety catch is automatically moved to armed when you press one of the gun reload buttons, and it remains on that position until you manually safe it using the key bind. This allows most users to just forget about this safety catch and simplifies their HOTA's bindings. We have finished our examination of all the different weapon elements. Press spacebar to continue onto the practice section of the training. The weapon's range is to our left. Keep an altitude of 2,000 meters and turn left to enter the range. The weapons range is in front of us. The gun strafing pits are at the southern side of the range. Select one of the 3 available pits and align to make a pass over it. Remember to take the radar out of standby and turn it on. Wait until the message rolling in on gun targets appears, and then initiate your gun attack. Perform the attack dive. The pipper will come up once you are in range. Fire when at 600 meters distance, by pressing the stick's trigger. First strafing pass done. Turn right to go back around and perform another pass. Try to hit a different target, if possible. Start climbing back to at least 2,000 meters AGL. We are far enough, turn right to go back towards the gun targets. Second strafing pass done. Turn right and back around, and perform another pass. Start climbing back to at least 2,000 meters AGL. We are far enough, turn right to go back towards the gun targets. Third pass. Turn right and back around to perform another pass. Deactivate the armament. For the gun it is a very short procedure. First, set the gun trigger to safe, with the keys right shift plus dot, the red lock on the stick should be visible. On DCS there is another small cheat, which automatically sets the trigger to safe when out of ammo, so this procedure step isn't really needed. 2. Set the radar to off, to preserve its refrigerant supply. Good, this completes the armament safe procedure. You can check your range results by calling up the communications menu. Select F10, Other, then select F1, Range. Finally, click F1, My Strafing Results. You have completed the main subject of this training mission. Select. Press spacebar if you want to fly back and land at our airbase, or press backspace to end the training now. Okay, you have chosen to proceed and practice a landing at our airbase. Continue straight north. We will contact ATC once we are nearer the airbase, to get an approach bearing. Our airbase should be visible to our left. Let's contact it to request landing clearance. Make sure the radio is tuned to channel 1, the audio switch is set to radio, and then press the PTT button. On the communications menu select F5, ATC, F1, Wadi Abu Rish, F1, inbound.
Inbound.
The tower will answer with the heading and distance to its landing approach point, and it will also inform runway 19 has been assigned. You can use either runway 19 Romeo or 19 Lima. Press F12 to clear the communications menu. Press spacebar once you receive the ATC's answer. Continue flying north until you are around 15 kilometers past the airbase, at which point you will turn to the left to initiate a visual approach to the runway. Once you get nearer the airbase, ATC will ask you to contact tower. At that point press PTT again, and then select F1, request landing. We are 15 kilometers past the airbase. Make a left turn to 270 degrees, and follow that heading until you can see the airbase runways just above our left wingtip. Maintain an altitude of 1,000 meters AGL and reduce speed to 600 kilometers per hour. Good, now turn left again and begin to align with the runway, which is on a 190 degrees heading. Keep 1,000 meters AGL, do not yet begin the descent. While you approach the runway, perform the steps of the before landing procedure. At 550 kilometers per hour, lower the landing gear. Once you get 3 greens, remember to return the lever to neutral and lock it. At 500 kilometers per hour, set flaps to 25 degrees.
Enfield 1, cleared for visual, contact tower. Enfield 1, request Request landing.
At 380 kilometers per hour, set flaps to 45 degrees. Increase throttle to maintain 380 kilometers per hour. Do not drop speed below 340.
Enfield 1, check landing gear. Wind 195 at 2 meters per second. Runway 19.
Not a normal procedure, but on this mission bring the aircraft to a complete halt, while still on the runway. At that point, we will present you with a landing distance report.
Enfield 1, taxi to parking area.
After you get the landing distance report, increase throttle and exit the runway at the first available exit, to the left. This is taxiway Golf. Proceed forward, towards the ramp. Perform the following steps after leaving the runway. Flaps, up. Drop chute button, press to jettison the drag chute, only if it was deployed during the landing. Nose wheel brake switch, off. Pitot heat, off. Emergency heat, off. This completes the after landing procedure. Press spacebar if you want to park and practice the MiG shutdown, or press backspace to finish the training at this point. Look at the airbase diagram. Taxi the aircraft towards the nearest parking position, marked in light green on the diagram. Once at a proper spot, simply bring the aircraft to a full stop. Finally, proceed to shut down the aircraft following the procedure. Switch off all electric loads, with the exception of the dispenser fuel tank pump, the engine afterburner, and the battery ground power switches. Begin with the circuit breakers panel on the right cockpit wall. Turn off the radar and the battery heater. On the left side of the cockpit, raise the flaps and turn off the highlighted systems. On the right console, turn off the highlighted switches. Throttle. Pull fully back, then click on its lock lever to move it into its stop position. Before the engine rotors come to rest, turn off the battery, the dispenser tank fuel pump, the afterburner, and the two PO 750 inverters. Open canopy. Release its pressurization sealing lever. Unlock the canopy. Open it with its overhead handle. Shutdown finished. This training mission has been fully completed. Congratulations. Press spacebar to finish.